Welcome back everyone to another video from the Cheoktower Games. Hi, my name is Ryan, Cheok if you are my friend, and we are going to be doing our regular script building video, and this is the script that I'm going to be building for the June games. It's going to be an interesting script. I think it's going to be a script that is very different from what we've played before. A lot of new characters, but also an interesting demon that's going to be in play, as you can see in front of you already, but I'll go through it as we build along. As always, I only have like a slight idea of what I want the script to look like or what interactions I want to see. So yeah, I might make new changes along the way, might change my mind on certain things, or maybe I realize that, what was I thinking when I had like a sort of a mini brainstorm in my head. Alright, so this script, as you know, it's for June and it's for Pride Month, and therefore our script name is going to be Pride-Month. Yeah, so to be completely honest, like the previous scripts, like the Recruiter one or the Squid Games, right? Honestly, I don't think this is super related to the theme of Pride. It's just, I thought it was a funny pun that I think works for this month and gives me a reason to put this script, this set of characters in, because I didn't know what to call it anyway. Alright, so let's get into this right away. So the demon that we're going to put in is called the Leviathan, and it's a very interesting demon because, first things first, when you read the description, Leviathan, if more than one good player is executed, evil wins. All players know you are in play. After day 5, evil wins. So the first thing you may or may not notice is that if you read it, you realize, oh, does the Leviathan kill? Most demons that we have seen so far, they kill in the night. It always starts with, each day pick a player, they die. But Leviathan is an interesting one where the Leviathan, the demon rather, does not kill in the night. And essentially what it does is it creates a sort of I guess you could call it like a game mode, an alternative game mode to what we have played before. The Leviathan forces a clock on the town. So if you read it backwards, after day 5, evil wins. So what the evil team has to do is run down the clock. Basically, they must be able to survive 5 days, and if they can get past 5 days without being executed, then evil wins. The next line, reading backwards, all players know you are in play. So immediately when we start the game, you announced, I as a storyteller announces to everyone, everyone, I have an announcement to make. This is a Leviathan game. This is day probably 1, and you have 5 days to hunt and kill the demon. It doesn't really matter, to be honest, because I'm going to leave only the Leviathan as the only demon on the script, so everyone, no matter what, you guys know that you are up against a Leviathan. If more than one good player is executed, evil wins. So it's also very important for the good team to be able to execute, because that's the only way you kill the Leviathan and win. But you must be super careful, because if you kill more than one good player by execution, evil automatically wins. So if you think about it, you have 5 days, and within 5 days you have to nail the demon. Essentially what this means is that you have 5 executions, 5 chances to get the demon. But if you get, you have one safety net, you get one good player, it's okay, you still have one more chance. But if you kill one good player by execution, that means that the next person that you choose to execute has to be evil. Best case scenario, it has to be Leviathan. So you can probably start to think about what challenge this presents to either team. The good team just needs to make sure that they are super careful. They need to gather information. They need to make sure that the information is corroborated rather, and it all points to one person being the demon, and they should work towards executing the demon. Whereas the evil team needs to make sure that they're able to bide time, they're able to cause misinformation, they cause all kinds of crazy plays, and making sure that people don't follow your scent and are able to evade the good team till day 5, essentially. So as always, we are starting with the demon, and we'll work our way upwards. and we will now move on to which minions. So the interesting thing about this is like we need to think about what minions will help a Leviathan, what will help a demon who does not kill. So first things first, we want to put in sort of minions that help with these extra kills. So some good ideas would be things like witch, things like the where is it, assassin, so on and so forth. But I kind of want to make things a little bit more interesting for the evil team. So what I'm going to put in is if I can find it, I'm going to put in the Serenovas. It's going to be interesting minion because it's going to introduce a new mechanic, and it's super useful and it's super scary for the good team. I'll go through all these demons after I made my picks. Marionette is always good because it helps with misinformation. I am going to put in the Baron. So a lot of people always tell me that the Baron is actually a super weak minion, which I know where you're coming from, because when I first started playing this game and when I first came across the game, I was like, what? Baron is like so, like, they don't have anything other than just adding outsiders. But from the more I play it, in fact, Baron is becoming one of my favorite minions because it weakens the town significantly. It takes away 2 useful townsfolk and puts in 2 harmful outsiders for good. I have some ideas of what outsiders I want to put in. So the Baron in play, while it may seem like a very passive sort of like a power for evil, right, it's actually going to make towns super weak, and it's going to be very detrimental if they realize that there is a Baron in play. Another thing is that there is no demons here that will add outsiders, so there has to be reliably one way for there to be outsiders in the game. In my previous video, I talked about making sure that there are ways to put in outsiders, and this is so that evil can reliably bluff to be outsiders. So usually it's the form of Baron, it could be a Fangu, it could be Godfather, for example. So that's just one of the things I want to consider. We need some form of poisoning, and we need some form of information gathering for the evil team. So I'm going to put in the Widow, because the Widow does both of those. It allows you to pick one player to be poisoned, and also gives you access to the Grim, so that in these 5 days, right, who are the ones you sort of need to whose information you want to like absorb and like get from, and then how you can use that information to paint a different picture for your evil team. I'm gonna make it a 5 minion game just because it's a lot easier for the evil team. And it, there's all kinds of different minions that have different powers that will make things very interesting for the evil team. I want to put in Mazephiles. Okay, so let me explain what it is. Mazephiles, you start knowing a secret word. The first good player to say this word becomes evil that night. So essentially, if you look at the Mazephiles, right, I wanted to put Mazephiles in my previous month's script under the recruitment one, but I didn't know if it was going to be fun. But I'm going to put it in this one because I think having a secret evil townsfolk or outsider in the game is going to be very helpful for the evil team, and I think it's a really fun demon. You start knowing a word, and if you can get someone to say this word, I will turn them evil. It could be super interesting. It'll be like should I recruit someone who I definitely will vibe with, that or I definitely know will be on board to be evil with me, or do you want to put in someone who has a very strong power, and you're able to shut that power out for the good team, and then convert them into your team so that they can help spread misinformation with their power, for example. Lots of considerations, lots of different methods you can play this. And usually in the Mazephiles, right, you'll be a bit worried, like let's say if you get someone to say the word but then you get executed that day, that player does not become evil. So it's a good way for me to ensure that a person becomes evil, because the Leviathan doesn't kill and people are not incentivized to nominate and execute before probably day 4, day 5. Yep. So it's going to be quite fun. Okay, let me go into Serenovas because you guys know the rest of these minions. The Serenovas. Each night, choose a player and a good character. They are mad that they are this character tomorrow or might be executed. So very dangerous. Let me explain what um, the Serenovus does. So basically, I'll wake them up each night. They choose one player and a good character, meaning they must choose a townsfolk or an outsider, and they are mad that they are this character. So for example, let's say the Serenovus picks me, and the Serenovus picks me to be the investigator, for example. So I am woken up, I'll be told that a Serenovus has chosen for me to be mad that I'm the investigator. And the next day, tomorrow, in that sense, I need to convince people that I am the investigator, or else I might be executed. And madness is not it's not just about, you must tell people openly that you're like, okay, I am the investigator, everyone, just to make sure that everyone knows I'm the investigator. If people ask me, oh, so if you're an investigator, what's your information? Then you better have some information to give, because if you say like, oh, yeah, I'm the investigator, but I didn't get any information, which is impossible. How I will judge madness is you must make a sincere attempt to convince people that you are this character. So if you have a character that have you're mad as a character that has information, you should have some information to give out. Most likely this will be false, so that's why the Serenovus is very powerful, because you can force people to spread misinformation or spread even get into like a double claim with someone. So let's say if I was coming out and be like, okay guys, I'm the investigator, but there is a real investigator in play, and they're like, wait, they can't be because I'm the investigator, and this gets like a huge like an argument between us, which will take up a lot of air in the room and take up a lot of time, and like, oh, we can suspect that each other is evil, but the thing is that I'm just Serenovus mad. And the most scary consequence of madness is, especially for Serenovus, is that if you're not sincerely convincing people, or you're not sufficiently mad, you might be executed. So remember that if the Leviathan in a Leviathan game, if more than one good player is executed, if you are a good player and you get made mad by the Serenovus and you don't comply to the madness, you can get executed, which counts towards the Leviathan's win condition. So let's say if the Serenovus chooses two people in consecutive days, two different people to be mad, and they don't fulfill their madness, then they will both be executed and evil immediately wins for a Leviathan game. So it's gonna be a very interesting interaction. I would love to see how people do this. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions about madness, so I will await till we actually play it to really explain what I'm talking about. Alright, so this looks good in terms of the minions. I think they are a pretty good bunch. You have Outsider edition, you have Poisoning, and also like Grimoire peeking in the form of a Widow. Mazephy's helps to recruit a new person into the evil team, which is always fun. Serenovus introduces madness and also a execution condition. And last but not least, you have a Marionette who will help town spread misinformation, because they probably won't be getting real information and they sincerely think that they are that character. So it's good for them to go out there and tell people like, oh, I learned this and that, and people will actually believe them. Great. Let's move on to outsiders. So I mentioned that I had some interesting outsiders in mind. First of all, Mutant. This is a new one for everyone, and also is in the realm of madness. The Mutant states that if you are mad about being an outsider, you might be executed. So just remember that for both Mutant and Serenovus, it's still a might. I could be lenient and I'll give a warning to someone, and I say that if you're not mad tomorrow, or if you are mad in the case of the Mutant, basically I can choose whether I want to execute or not, and it should be I'll be quite strict about it. So specifically, if you're the Mutant, you cannot be mad about being an outsider, meaning you cannot tell people, or you cannot convince people that you are an outsider. If you do, you might be executed. So it's gonna be an interesting one, because if you're a Mutant, you have to pretend like you're a townsfolk. And of course you wouldn't know which townsfolk are in play, you wouldn't know which townsfolk are already in there, and if you choose to be a townsfolk that has information, it's going to be quite bad, because you had to fake this information, and you cannot say your other forms are outsiders. You can't say that I'm the mutant first of all, and you cannot say like, oh, I'm the other outsiders in this game. The minute you say that, or the minute you even hint at the fact that you might not be a townsfolk, minion, or demon, you can get executed. So same thing for Serra Novas. If you're good, especially since you're the mutant, try not to get executed. Alright. Well, yeah. I wanted to put in the Puzzle Master because it helps introduce drunkenness. The Puzzle Master states that one player is drunk even if you die. If you guess once who it is, learn the demon player, but guess wrong and get false information. So the existence of the Puzzle Master makes one player drunk no matter what. So it's like helping to introduce misinformation. And even if you die, typically if you die, that if you're a player that gives drunkenness, for example the philosopher, and you make someone else drunk, usually if you die the drunkenness goes away, but in this case the Puzzle Master's drunkenness is permanent, and they only have one guess throughout the entire game. They need to guess who is the player that they made drunk, and if they get it correctly, bingo, they learn who is a demon, which is very strong. But if you guess wrongly, you get false information. So it's not the worst thing in the world. I think it's one of the best outsiders to be, because sure, you make one person drunk, but if you guys have suspicions of who is that drunk person, then you are able to find out exactly who is the demon. Yeah. So it's not the worst thing in the world. In terms of what other things I want to put in, a damsel. I think damsel was a huge hit the last time we played, so I'm not opposed to putting that in. What did I want to put as well? I was thinking of the snitch, but the snitch helps also the evil team because each minion gets 3 bluffs, and beyond just being the snitch, you don't really get to do much. But yeah, I think that's what I want to put in. I could have put in a lunatic. Snitch, lunatic, politician. Because lunatic will not die, so they get to be strung along quite long. Essentially, you get strung along for at most 5 days, in fact. So that's always a good one to put in. Lunatic, snitch, politician. Let's get rid of snitch, because if there's a widow, they get bluffs anyway. And a marionette does not have the bluff at all. So it's only really the Baron, Serra Novas, and Mezaphiles, and let's circle back to that. Alright. Townsfolk. So when picking townsfolk for this demon, this Leviathan game, the most important thing to note is that they don't die. They are not killed in the night. So what really benefits the most from a Leviathan game is people who get like information every day, every night, for example, or they get to guess something that they don't have to worry about being killed, something that they don't have to worry about like, oh, okay, I need to do this before I die, sort of a thing. So looking at some once per game characters, but also some every night/day characters. First things first that come to my mind is Savant. As you guys know, I love Savant, so I will definitely put a Savant in. And getting like 5 days of info, super useful. Seamstress is a good one. I'm going to put in Village Idiot, because each day they get to learn alignments, and if they triangulate and work together, they could actually be really useful, provided there's more than one. Also helps at some junking, so which is always great. Let's put a philosopher, so that I don't have to choose what goes in the bag. You guys get to choose what you want to be. So I'm gonna put in the Amnesiac. That's a very fun one. I'm going to put in the Balloonist, because they also get information every night, and it's not the most obvious, so it needs a lot of working out. So this whole thing about like working, like playing against a Leviathan, you need to be able to work out all the information you get. Spend 5 days gathering all your information, cross-checking it with one another, and nail the demon. So a balloonist is super useful for that. This is quite strong already. These 3 are, they're more than capable to get things done. Let's put in a high priestess because I feel like high priestess didn't get to shine in the previous month. So let's put it in there. I'm tempted to put in a huntsman because of a damsel, and now the huntsman does not need to worry about getting it right immediately. That being said, the longer they leave the damsel untouched, the longer the evil team gets a alternate win condition. So that's always a bad thing. So huntsman needs to decide: do you want to use it early? You need to really spend the time getting information on who is the damsel. Let's say if you by day 4 you choose who the damsel is, the damsel becomes a not in play townsfolk, but they only get like one more day of information. So it's a race. It's a big gamble, which is super fun. I'm gonna put in a virgin because virgins deal with execution. So let's say if you're the virgin and you don't really want people, especially townsfolk, to nominate you because they get executed immediately, and that counts towards the win condition for Leviathan. So if you're on your final day, someone nominates the virgin, and they are townsfolk, they die immediately, and they're executed, and the evil team wins. Virgin also could be a very good bluff for a demon. If you're the Leviathan, on the last day you're like, guys, I'm the virgin, please don't nominate me, that kind of thing. So it should be pretty fun to watch. What else do I need here? Okay, let's get some first night information. Something that will help the town out at the start. I'm gonna put in the knight. It's a very simple one. You just know that 2 people are not a demon, so it helps already narrow down 2 people away. They could be minions, they could be outsiders, they could be other townsfolk, but as long as they're not the demon, the knight knows, immediately that these 2 people, we don't have to consider them towards the end. I'm gonna put in a librarian. I want to make sure that the town is able to at least have some sus on these outsiders, because these are very damaging outsiders. In fact, I'm going to take away politician. The librarian is able to see who, at least know one outsider that's in play, and that will really help with balancing things out a bit. Is that enough? I think knight and librarian are good first start knowing characters. How many do I have? 11. I need 2 more. Let's put in Elsa here, because Elsa here didn't get the win last time, and it's also a counter to the win condition that the damsel gives the evil. The Elsa here gives another win condition for good, so that's fine. Let's put in fisherman, because having advice will be super useful. And it's a once a game, so like you need to decide: do I want to use my ability sooner or later? Same thing for philosopher. Do you want to use your power immediately, get information, like one of these strong information rolls, at the risk of making them drunk throughout, because the philosopher won't go away. So seamstress, choose 2 players once per game at night. You learn if they are the same alignment. Super simple. Do you want to use it straight away and be like, okay, I know that these people are on the same team, on the different teams, or do you want to use it later on as a confirmation sort of a thing, being like, these 2 people's information does not add up? Are they both evil, trying to push for a different person to be the demon, or is that something else? So I think it's super good. I think that's what we have for the townsfolk. Let me do a quick last check if it looks good for the evil team as well to play against. Blueness is great because you add outsiders, which could also help cover a Baron. Also helps evil to bluff that there are outsiders. Also here gives a win condition. Savant, Balloonist, Village Idiot gives a lot of info. Start knowing roles in the form of Knight, Librarian, High Priestess with the more social aspect of information gathering. Virgin for a good bluff, but also for someone to make sure that they are under wraps. Amnesiac, super fun. So Amnesiac's ability is you do not know what your ability is. Each day, privately guess what it is, and you learn how accurate you are. So the Amnesiac can literally have any ability that I, as a storyteller, assigns them. It can be a ability that will help detect where evil is. It could be something that helping your fellow townsfolk. It could be related to making people drunk, poison, protected, even affect the setup of the game. I've seen amnesiac games where it's even like, for example, a little monster game, and the amnesiac's ability is they get to choose who babysits the baby instead of the minions getting to choose. Super fun. I think we're ready. It's a pretty advanced townsfolk, but I think it's really fun and it works pretty well here because each day you get to guess how close you are. If the amnesiacs are able to guess exactly what their ability is, super helpful. Fisherman is good. Huntsman, philosopher helps at drunkening. So we have drunkening in the form of philosopher, village idiot. Maybe the amnesiac might make someone drunk. That could be the ability. Drunkenness from the puzzle master and from the widow. So 4 to 5 sources, which is pretty good number. I think that's it. I think we have a pretty balanced script. I didn't really change that much of what I wanted to put in. There are some things here. You know what? That's fine. I think we're good. Yes, so I'm super excited to play this script. I think it's gonna be a blast. It's so funny because when we first started playing, right, I was always giving the good team a bit of a hard time by saying, you guys have to execute. You have to execute. Well, this script you don't have to execute, and in fact, executing is dangerous. So it harkens back to that time, and I think the reason why I wanted to put in Leviathan this time, right, is because what I realized that the good team needs to do a little bit better, because we've been seeing a lot of evil team winning every time we play in person. The good team needs to be able to work together. If you're a player who has information but you don't share, or you keep it close to your chest, BOTC is a game where information that you gather is almost never enough to win the game for you. Your information only makes sense if you corroborate with people, if it's lining up with others. It closes gaps and it closes walls where other people's information can't, and vice versa. So Leviathan is a game that you don't want to keep cards close to your chest. You want to make sure that you are sharing your information, you are working together with others, and it's not something that you want to play solo. If you're a good player, you are part of the majority. But if you're not working with that team, if you are a player who don't want to share and just keep things to yourself, right, you're going to be a detriment to your team because you're not being a team player. You need to work together with others. Leviathan and the minions, they already have such a big handicap because they can't kill, so they're gonna work extra hard to make sure that the demon is not found, essentially. Alright, so we have most of our script here, and I think what we need now to top it all off is to choose our travelers and our lorics. I already have some that I was looking at that I want to put in. I'm gonna put in the harlot. Where is it? Harlot. I am going to put in the matron. Okay, what's my thought process choosing these travelers? This is a game, a Leviathan game, where people are not going to die. People are not going to be. There's not going to be a lot of nominations, voting, execution. So, there are some travelers like the bureaucrat. There's a thief. They don't have to really worry about death or voting. Scapegoat doesn't make sense as well because you probably will only see executions toward the end. So I'm gonna put in travelers that are a bit more social related. So I'm gonna put in the harlot. I'm gonna put in the matron. I'm going to put in the bishop. I'm gonna put in apprentice. So these are all travelers that don't have to worry about. I'm not gonna put in bishop. What am I saying? Should I? Only the storyteller can nominate. At least one opposing player must be nominated each day. I mean, I can put people up on the block, but doesn't make sense. I think we're gonna go with these 3 first. I don't think there's gonna be 4 travelers, so let's have these 3 so that people can choose. Harlot, each night choose a living player. If they agree, you learn their character, but you both might die. So it's information in the exchange of, like, 2 people dying. Specifically, it doesn't say execution, so they don't have to worry about contributing to the win condition for the Leviathan, but it will help. It's training information for death. Matron, each day you may choose up to 3 sets of 2 players to swap seats. Players may not leave their seats to talk in private. So Matron forces people to be glued to their seats. Players cannot leave their seats to talk, but the matron is able to swap seats with people, so they're able to swap not only themselves, but you can swap 2 people, to swap seats. So it's good if you're, for example, evil. You can get all your evil players in one line. Or if you're a good matron, you think that, like, the people beside you are evil, you can push them away and get certain people talking to each other instead. So interesting traveler. And exiles don't count towards the win condition for Leviathan, so you can just get rid of the travelers whenever you want to. And the apprentice, a very simple one. On your first night, you gain a townsfolk ability or a minion ability. Basically, they are able to become a minion or a townsfolk respectively, without really contributing to the game, and they just have an extra person working for their respective team. So that's always fun. I'm thinking of adding a Lorik in. I will explain the Loriks later on when we get there, but I'm going to put in Xenomancer, and I'm gonna put in the Knaves. This is gonna be a super fun one. Hopefully you guys can make it for the game. Where there are 2 storytellers, so it'll probably be me and Fur, and we are going to make it super fun. So stay tuned for that game. That's it. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in. Hopefully this wasn't too long. I tried to make sure that I didn't ramble as much as I did in the first video. Though hopefully that gives you some insight as to what this script entails, how to play certain characters, some watchouts that you are gonna look out for when we play these games. And yeah, hopefully you guys are excited for this game, because I am. Happy Pride Month. Thank you. Bye bye. No, I'm doing something. Close the door already. I'm doing something. Okay, let's go back to that. Hopefully, you can cut that out. I don't know how to clap with just one hand. How should I clap? Is that too loud?